Jericho fell to a leader who took off his sandals before he raised his sword. That order matters. Most of us try to plan, push, and fix. Joshua stops, listens, and only then moves. The first scene is simple. A city with sealed gates, a people fresh across the river, a leader who must act. Yet God begins by lowering Joshua, not by lifting his voice. I want you to picture the pressure. Families are watching. Supplies are limited. Scouts report thick walls. Joshua could rally troops, measure stones, and draft speeches. Instead, a man with a drawn sword stands in front of him. Joshua asks a practical question. Are you for us or for them? The answer resets the frame. God is not joining Joshua's side. Joshua is being invited to join God's command. That is why the next instruction is not about weapons. It is about worship. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy. Josh 5:15. Short. Holy means set apart for God. This is a leadership briefing that begins on the ground. You may feel that tension now. A decision waits. Your team wants speed. Your family wants certainty. Your own heart wants relief. You can move fast and hope, or you can slow down long enough to ask the right question. Who owns this mission? If the answer is God, your next step changes. You will still plan. You will still act. But your orders start in His presence. Small takeaway for today. Before any major move, practice a sandals off pause. 2 minutes of quiet. One sentence prayer. One honest question. Then write down the next faithful step, not the most impressive step. We start here because the story does. Listening came before marching. Surrender came before strategy. In the next part, we will name this shift clearly and ask what it means for every leader and every team under pressure. Reflection. Where is God asking you to take off your sandals before you press send? Speak up or move ahead. Before Joshua commands anyone, he is commanded. He walks near Jericho, sees a man with a drawn sword, and asks the question every leader asks under pressure. Are you on our side or theirs? The answer cuts through politics. As commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. Josh 5:14. Short. This means God is not a tool for our plans. We line up under His plan. Here is the claim. Leadership under God starts with surrender, not with a louder strategy. Joshua hears the next line. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy. Josh 5:15. Short. Holy means set apart for God. Sandals off is a physical act that says, I'm under orders. It resets Joshua's identity from owner to steward, caretaker of what belongs to God. Therefore, he can lead without pretending to be the source. But if he skips this step, his skill might outrun God's will. 2 short notes for clarity. The commander of the Lord's army signals that Israel's fight is God's mission, not national pride. And the drawn sword shows readiness, but the first command is worship, not attack. That order matters because it teaches Israel where victory actually comes from. Bring this into a normal week. A school principal faces parent pressure to change grading rules mid-term. Emotions run high. The principal feels the draw to pick a side fast. Instead, she gathers her team, reads the policy that guards fairness, and pauses. 5 minutes of quiet. She prays a simple line, God own this school. She calls 2 parents privately, listens, names what is true, and holds the boundary that protects all students. Results: fewer emails, clearer trust. She did not win by volume. She led by standing under a higher rule. Practice for teams. Start hard meetings with a sandals-off moment. 1 minute of silence. 1 sentence that names who owns the mission. 1 read of the core principle that will guide the decision. Then speak. You will notice less posturing and more problem-solving because the room is no longer fighting for control. Small takeaway. When a decision feels forced into us versus them, ask Joshua's better question. Who is the true commander here? Write the answer at the top of your notes before you choose a path. Next, we'll slow down with Israel for 6 quiet days and see why God used silence to shape courage before he asked for a shout. Reflection. If someone audited your calendar and budget this month, who would they conclude is actually in charge? Joshua asks the question we all ask under pressure. Are you for us or for them? The reply is not a side. It is a throne. As commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. Josh 5:14. Short. God is not a tool for our plan. We are invited under his command. This shifts identity. Joshua is not the owner. He is a steward caretaker who manages what belongs to God. Owners grasp and defend. Stewards listen and obey. Therefore, his first leadership act is surrender, not strategy. But if he treats God as backup, he will spend courage in the wrong direction. Name the mission clearly. God owns the goal. God sets the pace. God defines the win. That clarity releases a leader from panic. It also exposes any motive that hides under religious words. If I need God to pick my side, I have already decided to lead without him. Set a simple practice. Ask 2 questions before you commit the team. What has God already said in Scripture that governs this choice? What principle protects people if the result is slow or costly? Write both answers. Then choose the next faithful step that fits them. Bring this to a normal Monday. A nonprofit feels pressure to chase grants that don't fit its purpose. The director wants the number. The board wants the story. They pause. They read the original charter out loud. They pray a 1-line prayer. Command us. They decline 2 flashy offers. They accept 1 smaller grant that keeps the mission clean. 6 months later, outcomes deepen. Trust grows because decisions matched ownership. Another case. A family debates moving for a raise that will erase church, school, and grandparents. They make a simple grid. God's purpose for family first. Honest work next. Money last. They visit once. They listen to counsel. They wait 1 week. They choose a different role in the same city. The budget is tighter. Peace is stronger. Ownership decided the trade. Therefore, clarity about who leads produces courage without noise. But confusion about ownership multiplies meetings, emails, and fear. Leaders who answer, "Who's in charge?" with honesty, can say hard yes and hard no with a steady voice. Small takeaway. At the top of your next decision doc, write 1 line. God owns this mission. I serve as steward, and let that sentence rule your options. Reflection. If someone audited your calendar and budget this week, whose command would they see you following? Jericho is shut tight. Normal tactics would start now. Build ramps, cut supply lines, push night attacks. God gives a different plan. March once around the city each day for 6 days. Priests carry the ark chest that signals God's presence. Soldiers walk. People stay quiet. 1 short verse says it straight. You shall march around the city. Thus shall you do for 6 days. Josh 6:3. Short. Why slow everyone down when urgency feels holy? Because God is forming a people, not only scoring a win. The ark goes at the center to teach location. Victory lives with God, not in our hands. The silence cuts 2 habits that always show up under pressure. Trash talk that pretends we control the outcome. Complaints that spread fear like a cold. Both habits drain a team faster than a hard task. Quick context. Ancient Near Eastern armies used siege engines, tunnels, and scaling ladders. Israel looks like a worship procession, not a storming party. This contrast tells the truth about where the power comes from. Think about a normal week. Your team has a broken process that makes customers wait. The loud fix is a flashy feature. The quiet fix is 6 days of simple laps watch, calls log friction ship, 1 clean improvement per day, no hype. You tell the team to hold comments until day 7. By week's end, wait times drop. The big feature is still coming, but the small obedient steps did more than a sudden push. Therefore, silence becomes a tool for trust. It slows the mouth so the heart can listen. But noise becomes a mask. We use it to cover fear or sell confidence we do not have. Practice this rhythm. Before big moves, schedule quiet laps. Walk the perimeter of the problem without speaking solutions. Let the presence of God define the pace. Ask 2 questions in writing, not out loud. What is true? What is the next faithful step? Do that step once each day. Review on day 7. Small takeaway. Replace prove it now with obey 1 lap. Write the 1 lap you will repeat for 6 days and do it without fanfare. Next, we will sit inside the discipline of silence itself and see how a leader's quiet sets the tone for an entire community. Reflection. What would change this week if you practiced 1 silent lap before every major meeting or message? Silence is not empty. It is direction. Joshua commands the people to hold their voices until the appointed day. 1 line carries the weight. You shall not shout or make your voice heard. Josh 6:10. Short. This sounds small, but it rewires a camp. Words steer mood. Mood steers courage. Courage steers action. If the words go sideways, the march does too. Why hold back speech? Because untested talk spreads like fire. Rumor frames reality before truth arrives. Boasting overpromises and breeds shame when results lag. Complaining drains the will to show up on day 6. Silence becomes a guardrail, protective boundary. It keeps fear from multiplying and keeps pride from taking credit ahead of time. The priest's horns still sound, so the people are not guessing. They move by clear signals, not by hot takes. Leaders set this thermostat. A leader who speaks last invites better thinking. A leader who fills every pause trains the team to wait for the script, not for God. Quiet is not passivity. Quiet is attention. It says, we will not let noise choose our next step. We will let truth and timing do that. Bring this to a normal Monday. A sales team reviews a shaky quarter. The manager bans side-channel chat during client calls and in the recap meeting. New rule after any proposal. There is 30 seconds of silence to breathe and think. Then 1 person must summarize what they heard before anyone can critique. At first it feels stiff. Within a month, the team hears the real objections in client voices. They stop chasing ghosts. Close rates rise because listening improved more than scripts did. You can practice this at home too. Parents during tense talks with teens try the same rhythm. 1 person speaks. Everyone waits a count of 10. Someone repeats back what they heard. Only then do you respond. It lowers heat and raises understanding. Silence creates room for the heart to catch up. Therefore, silence rightly practiced builds trust and teaches courage to wait for God's cue. But unmanaged speech, boasting, venting, speculating erodes trust even when intentions are good. Set signals. Clarify who speaks when. Decide what words are off limits during a faith step. No predictions, no blame, no doom, no victory laps. Small takeaway. Add a listen first. Rule to your next meeting. 30 seconds of quiet after proposals. 1 summary before critique. Leader speaks last. Next, we will step into day 7, where long obedience turns into a sudden move as horns sound and a shout finally has its place. Reflection. Where do your words tend to run ahead of your trust? And what single guardrail will you set this week? Long obedience builds a kind of quiet strength. On the 7th day, God tells Israel to take 7 laps. Priests lead with the ark. 7 priests carry shofars, ram's horns, used in worship and war. When the long blast sounds, the people finally shout. The command lands clear. Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. Josh 6:16 short. Notice the verb, tense. Given. The shout is not to earn the win. It is to agree with a gift already promised. Here is the lesson. Timing belongs to God. Training belongs to us. 6 days of silence train their ears and their pace. Day 7 asks for decisive action at God's cue. The horn signals God's kingship. The shout is confession out loud of what their hearts settled in the quiet. The walls fall when obedience meets God's timing, not when volume hits a certain level. Why does this matter for leaders? Many of us reverse the rhythm. We rush to act early because waiting feels like failure. Or we drag our feet and miss the now because caution feels like wisdom. Joshua shows a better path. Prepare quietly and thoroughly. When the signal comes, act with clarity and speed. Do not rehearse excuses. Do not ask for a softer version. Move. Bring this to a normal Monday. A product team has run quiet iterations for weeks. Bugs are down. Support tickets show a pattern. The team has prayed, listened to users, and trimmed scope. The data and the conviction align. The director says, now. They ship on a Tuesday afternoon. Clear notes, honest limits, focused rollout. The market response is modest at first, then strong. Because the team waited to shout until the right moment, they did not burn reputation with a premature push, and they did not miss the window by overthinking. The earlier silence made the later speed possible. Another angle. Parents work with a child on a habit homework rhythm device limits sleep. For 6 weeks, they listen, set cues, and practice. On week 7, they draw a clear boundary and enforce it with a calm now. Tears come. Then peace comes. The house has a new normal because the shout was backed by many quiet laps. Therefore, patience ripens courage. It lets you act from settled trust instead of panic. But impatience drains courage. It forces action from fear, then blames others when walls stay standing. Learn to name your cues ahead of time. What signals will mean now for this decision? Prayer, peace council agreement, data threshold, scripture-tested motive. When those align, lift the horn and move. Small takeaway. Write your now checklist for 1 pending decision. 1 prayer, peace. 2 wise counsel. 3 clear data. 4 alignment with scripture. 5 love of people over image. When all 5 light up, stop circling and act. Next, we will talk about first fruits and the bancherem, why the first win belongs to God, and how boundaries protect the future. Reflection. Are you usually early or late to act? And what 1 cue will you start using to recognize God's now? The first win belongs to God. That is the rule at Jericho. Joshua tells the people that the city is under cherem, set apart to God. No one takes personal plunder. Gold and silver go to the Lord's treasury. The line is brief and weighty. The city and all that is within it shall be devoted to the Lord. Josh 6:17. Short. This is not a license for cruelty. This is a boundary that declares who owns the victory. Why does God claim the first city? First fruits realign desire. The first portion reminds the heart that success is stewardship, managing what belongs to God, not self-entitlement. Israel is about to face many towns. If greed leads the way, after win 1 rot will spread faster than momentum. Cherem functions like a firewall, protective barrier. It blocks private gain from corrupting public trust. Leaders need this guard today. After a hard push, the human pull is to cash in credit, pad reputation, and loosens standards. God's boundary says slow down and honor the source. Put the first fruit where it cannot feed your ego. Name the line out loud so your team knows the rule and the reason. Plain words for a hard topic. The judgment on Jericho is real. It sits inside a unique moment of God's justice and promise. It is not a template for personal violence. It is a holy charge for Israel under God's command in a specific time and place. Our lesson is not to mimic the event. Our lesson is to respect God's claim on the first and to keep our hands clean when success arrives. Bring this to a normal Monday. A freelancer lands a large client after months of prayer. The first invoice hits. They choose to give first, not last. They also set one ethical line they will not cross for any client. They write it into their contract. It costs them one short-term project. It saves their name and peace for the year. The boundary preserves the blessing. Team practice. After a major win schedule, a first fruits meeting. Thank God plainly. Move the first measurable portion to mission or mercy. Publish a short integrity checklist. Who approves spending, how credit is shared. What conflicts of interest are off limits. Close with one sentence that names the owner of the mission. This turns celebration into formation. Therefore, boundaries secure future joy. They keep victory from owning you. But blurred lines turn a gift into a trap. Small secret allowances today become public losses tomorrow. Write the line now before pressure argues for exceptions. Small takeaway. Name one first fruits act and one integrity boundary for your next success. Put both on the calendar before the result arrives. Next, we will step to the window where mercy hangs on a scarlet cord and learn how God keeps promises to outsiders who trust Him. Reflection. What first fruits boundary would guard your next season from hidden compromise? Judgment is real in Jericho, but mercy is not missing. Joshua sends 2 men to bring out Rahab and her family just as promised. The earlier sign still hangs in her window, a scarlet cord. One brief line carries the story forward. Only Rahab and all who are with her in her house shall live. Josh 6:17, short. The cord is not magic. It is a public marker of trust. She believed Israel's God would act and staked her future on that promise. Why tell this in the middle of walls and war? Because God's holiness never erases His heart. Rahab was a Canaanite and a prostitute sex trade worker. By every social rule, she should be outside. Yet faith moves her inside. She hides the spies, tells the truth, and ties the cord. Israel keeps its word, and God folds her into the story. Later scripture will place her in the line that leads to Messiah. The point is clear. God's mercy looks for honest trust, not perfect resumes. Leaders need this lens. In seasons of hard boundaries like Cherem, do not lose sight of the people who took risks to trust early. Keep promises to outsiders who helped before you were strong. Honor covenant binding agreement. It teaches your team that integrity anchors mission, not convenience. Simple clarity about ethics. Mercy here is not favoritism. It is not bending rules for friends. Rahab's rescue was part of the stated plan from the start. The cord marked a household under protection. In your world, that looks like keeping written commitments, following through on letters of offer, and protecting good faith partners even when deadlines squeeze. Bring this to a normal Monday. A manager hires an intern who spoke up with a hard truth during interviews. Months later, a reorg threatens junior roles. The manager remembers the cord, that early act of trust and courage. She advocates for the intern's spot with data and with her own credibility. The team keeps a voice they need. The intern keeps a future they earned. Mercy here is not emotion. It is remembered promise. Family practice. Parents can mark cord moments at home times when a child told the truth at a cost. Write down the promise you made then. When pressure comes later, point back to it. Keep your word. You will shape a house where confession is safer than hiding. Therefore, mercy is not a loophole in holiness. It is God's heart operating inside His holy plan. But mercy without boundaries becomes favoritism, and boundaries without mercy become cold. Scripture holds them together. Leaders should too. Small takeaway. Identify one scarlet cord. Relationship. Someone who trusted you early, and send a clear note this week that reaffirms your promise to them. Name the promise. Name the next step you'll honor. Next, we will look at the march itself. Priests, people cues and roles, and see how corporate faith, not solo brilliance, carried this win. Reflection. Who has hung a scarlet cord of trust with you that you must honor this week, and what concrete step will you take? Jericho fell to a community moving as one, not to a lone hero. Joshua appoints roles. Armed men in front. 7 priests with shofars, ram's horns around the ark chest that signals God's presence. Rear guard behind. Everyone keeps pace. Scripture notes the simple flow. So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city. Josh 6:11. Short. The ark at the center says, who leads? The order around it says, how we follow. Why does order matter? Because faith is not random zeal. It is coordinated trust. Clear roles remove guesswork. Simple cues reduce panic. Repetition builds muscle memory, so courage doesn't depend on mood. When the horn sounds, you move. When the leader raises a hand, you halt. No showboating. No freelancing. This is worship shaped into logistics practical planning. Leaders apply this by designing teams that can obey under stress. Write the map. Who carries what? Who signals change? What words mean stop and go? Practice the sequence when the stakes are low, so the steps hold when pressure rises. Therefore, shared obedience beats solo brilliance. But unclear roles turn holy plans into hallway chaos. Bring this to a normal Monday. A hospital unit struggles with shift handoffs. Details drop. Patients wait. The charge nurse implements a standard handoff phrase and a written checklist. One person speaks at a time. The next repeats back key facts. Within weeks, errors fall and morale rises. Nothing flashy. Only a team moving in sync around the mission at the center the patient. Churches need this too. Sunday isn't a show. It's many servants, aligned greeters, kids, workers, musicians, prayer team tech. Put the ark at the center by naming the purpose out loud to honor God and serve people. Then, keep signals simple. When service starts, mics are ready. When prayer is called, leaders are present. The order frees warmth instead of stifling it. Family practice. Make one-page roles for dinner hour or crisis moments. Who cooks? Who sets? Who cleans? Who calls grandma if plans change? It feels small, but small order removes small resentments that grow into big ones. Small takeaway. Pick one mission you lead. In one page, define roles, signals, and a 2-step drill to practice this week. Share it. Run it twice before the big day. Next, we will talk about aftershock and memory, why some ruins should stay down, and how wise leaders teach future teams not to rebuild what God has brought low. Reflection. What single clarifying role or cue would make your team move as one starting this week? Some ruins should stay down. After Jericho falls, Joshua speaks a warning for the future. Cursed before the Lord be the man who rises up and rebuilds this city. Josh 6:26. Short. This is not about hating construction. It is about blocking pride from re-erecting the monument that once defied God. Memory guards mission. When we forget what God toppled, we drift back to the very chains he broke. Why give this warning on a day of victory? Because success makes nostalgia bold. People say those walls were impressive. Leaders say we could use that gate again. The heart forgets what the walls did to the soul. Fear at the center, power at the top, God at the edge. A wise leader names the boundary, while the dust still hangs in the air. The lesson becomes a landmark, not a story that fades. Bring this to a normal Monday. A company retires a profitable product that trained customers to expect half-truths in marketing. After the win of a transparent relaunch, pressure rises to bring the old line back just for a quarter. A leader pulls the team to the rubble. She reads the complaint data and the trust scores from before. She says, "We will not rebuild what hurt people." Revenue climbs slower. Reputation grows steadier. And young staff learn what integrity looks like after a win. Home application. A family breaks a cycle of yelling during conflict. Months later, stress spikes. Someone suggests airing it out like before. The parents point to the memory how fear lived in the kids' faces and keep the boundary. They choose calm plans and quiet hours instead. The house stays free because they refuse to rebuild. Therefore, memory protects mission. It turns moments into guardrails. But nostalgia for past power invites future pain. Write the warning while your heart is soft from the miracle. Post it where pressure will read it. Small takeaway. Name one. Collapsed habit or system you must not rebuild. Write a one-sentence, "Do not rebuild" rule, and share it with the people who can hold you to it. Next, we will meet Achan, the negative mirror of Jericho, and see how one hidden theft stalled an entire community until truth came into the light. Reflection. What collapsed pattern are you tempted to rebuild because it once worked, and what will you put in its place instead? Jericho's boundary was clear. The first city belonged to God. One man crossed the line. Achan hid a cloak silver and gold under his tent. No one saw it, but the next battle at Ai went badly. 36 men died. Courage melted. God's diagnosis was blunt. Israel has sinned. They have taken some of the devoted things. Josh 7:11 short. Private compromise created public weakness. Why does one secret stall a whole community? Because sin isolates. It breaks trust lines you cannot see. When the camp thinks God is with them and he has withdrawn his help, strategy cannot save the day. Joshua tears his clothes, seeks God, and then leads a hard but necessary process. Tribes, clans, households, step by step, until Achan stands in the light. Confession comes. The stolen items are dug up. Judgment is carried out. The valley is named for trouble so future generations will remember what secrecy costs. Leaders must learn two moves here. First, protect integrity before momentum. If the win at Jericho becomes a license to bend rules, I will expose it. Second, practice honest audits. Ask the questions that surface hidden risks: money, credit, data, relationships. Clear the camp before you charge again. Therefore, accountability is mercy for the many, but secrecy taxes everyone, including those who never chose the lie. Bring this to a normal Monday. A software team races toward launch. One engineer knows a library's license forbids commercial use unless they buy a seat. It's cheaper to ignore it. He stays quiet. Weeks later, legal halts the release. Clients wait. Trust wobbles. When he tells the truth, the team pays the cost up front, replaces the library, and ships later with a clean name. The delay hurts. The restored integrity saves the year. The lesson sticks. Hidden shortcuts are expensive in public. Family version. A teenager hides a small purchase on a shared card. Parents notice a pattern in the statement. Instead of only anger, they choose light. They review the budget together, set limits, and add alerts. Consequences happen. but so does repair. The house learns to deal with truth early rather than bleed slowly over months. Set simple practices. Publish a short I checklist after every big win. 1. Are any funds or credit misapplied? 2. Are we hiding a risk from each other? 3. Are our words to partners fully true? 4. Does our pace match God's peace? 5. Who needs to see the books? Put names to each item. Make it normal to tell on your own shortcuts before they tell on you. Small takeaway. Schedule 1. Quiet audit this week. Money, data, credit, or commitments. And bring one thing into the light before it grows teeth. Next, we'll land the plane with a 7-day listening lab so you can practice Joshua's posture right where you live and lead. Reflection. What single hidden shortcut, if exposed today, would most stall your team, and what step will you take to bring it into the light? Don't just admire Joshua's posture. Practice it. 7 simple days. Short steps. Real change. Day 1. Name the owner. Write one sentence at the top of your week. God owns this mission. I serve. Read Joshua 5 and pray one line. Command me. This reframes pressure. It shrinks ego and lifts clarity. Day 2. Sandals off. Give God 10 quiet minutes. No music, no phone. Breathe a slow count of 4 in, 4 out. Lay one decision on the table. Say, your will, not my rush. Holy means set apart for God. Set this window apart. Day 3. Map one lap. Choose one small repeatable action, not a grand gesture. One hard call per day. One customer check-in. One apology you owe. Do it once today. Do it again tomorrow. Long obedience beats loud effort. Day 4. Guard your mouth. Adopt a rule, no venting without a plan. Add a meeting habit. 30 seconds of silence after any proposal. Then one summary before critique. You shall not shout or make your voice heard. Josh 6:10 short. Listening raises wisdom. Noise raises heat. Day 5. Clarify roles. On one page, name who carries what. Owner, helper, approver, witness. Remove one overlap and one orphaned task. Send the page. Ask for questions. Shared obedience beats solo brilliance. Day 6. First fruits boundary. Give first, not last. Money, credit, and thanks go to God and to the right people before you keep any. Write one integrity line you will not cross next quarter. Put it on your desk and in your calendar. Day 7. Act on now. Set your cue list prayer. Peacewise counsel. Clear data. Scripture. True motive. Love of people over image. If all 5 light up, move today. Send the email. Make the call. Ship the work. Be strong and courageous. Josh 1:9 short. How to keep it going. Weekly. A sandals off meeting. 1 minute of silence. Owner named aloud. Principal read. Then decisions. Monthly. A quiet audit. Money, credit, risk, words. Bring one thing into light. After every win, first, fruits and thanks before any personal gain. Tell the story so the next team learns. If this helped you hear God in your own Jericho week, share the lab with a friend. Drop your Day 7 move in the comments so others find courage. Subscribe and stay with us. Next time we'll walk from I's failure to renewal. Reflection. Which single step from the 7 days will you start today to make listening your first leadership move?